All right, what's going on, you mutts? Keg back with another UFC Fight Night video for the boys. I'll break it all down from a pre-fight perspective, I guess, and then we'll roll into the weekend looking to crush. Keep in mind that the card is tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. It starts on ABC, I believe. So you're going to have to get up early or you're going to miss it. Also, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It's the least you could do. We don't ask much. Do that. And if you want to sign up, use the code BETS25 off. It'll get you 25% off the first week or month. You guys know that. It's been a good run for me lately. I'm up 40 units in the last 45 days on the sheet. So you can't beat that. Try to keep it going today. Last weekend wasn't bad. If you watched this show last weekend, you did really well. We only ended up having one play on the spreadsheet because the other split decision prop was off because the fight didn't happen. But that being said, we got the winner home at 4-1 in the Courtney Casey fight to go to split. And between me, Gavin, Diego, and Johnny, we probably made about 10 units on the show for UFC. So it was good. It was really solid. But this card, it's going to be entertaining, I think. Pretty good. A lot of these fights should be a fun watch. I found some spots. There wasn't a ton that I liked, but I found some spots. So Jessica Pinay, Emily Ducote is the first fight. So obviously you guys know that we're going to be on the split decision prop here at 4.5 to 1. Jessica Pinay basically disappeared for 4 years. In part because I think she popped for USADA, and in part because I'm not really sure why. But before she left, she had back-to-back losses against Andrade, which you can't fault her for, against Joanna and Jacek, which you can't fault her for, and against Taylor, which is So then she comes back. She beats Loopy in a really close split decision. But in preparation for this card, I went back and I watched that fight. And I think Loopy probably won that fight, if we're being fair. And then she got a quick submission win against Karolina Kowalkiewicz in her last fight. Jessica Pinay is not a really good striker. I guess she's not terrible, but she's not good. She knows how to use her body and fight long, but man, her striking defense is pretty dog shit. So where she really excels, though, obviously, is on the ground. She has an elite submission game for women's MMA. You have to say that. You have to give her that. Her scrambles are really good. Her transitions are really good. Like I said earlier, she does concede position too much. She invites fighters into her guard. And I understand why she does it. She's confident in her ground game. But I don't like to see fighters that usually don't have the physically dominant advantage in a fight do that. And sometimes she doesn't. But she still does it anyway. Emily Ducote, solid striker. Her boxing in the pocket is on point. She could set you up with a nice jab. And you look at her, she's a little shithouse. And she does carry some power in those hands, for sure. She looked good at weigh-ins, man. Both these women fought Danielle Taylor. Only one of them made Danielle Taylor the fucking meme knockout of the year, probably. And that was Ducote. The knockout went viral. And if you haven't seen it, you should. It's nasty. On the ground, I think she's improving. She was recently promoted to black belt, and her submission game, while only having one sub in her career, it's not awful. You know, she's solid in transitions. She's been close to a few arm bars. Plus her ground and pound it's pretty wicked, man. Which you would expect from somebody that strikes like her. So the odds opened offshore around to Cody minus 135. She's taken money since then. I think now she's between 155 and 160. I agree with the line move. I think she's better on the feet, and she's getting better at BJJ like month to month. So I'll pick her to win the fight. Now, you know that we're on the split prop, but if you're looking for other action, it would probably either be the KO, the decision at plus 165, or the KO or decision at minus 120. Aside from that, I'm done with this one. Dwight Grant, Dustin Stoltzfus, no matter who you think is going to win this fight, man, the fact that Dwight Grant is back in the cage after being knocked out less than 3 months ago is just not healthy. Now, he wasn't like, he wasn't planted like a tulip, but like he couldn't stand on his own at the end of the fight. So considering that he probably only healed for 2 to 3 weeks before getting back into the gym, starting a whole nother fight camp to get ready for Stoltzfus, it's just batshit crazy, man. It doesn't make any sense. On top of that, Grant's gonna take a step up in weight for the first time in 9 years. Not smart, in my opinion. But I don't really like Dwight Grant. He doesn't have great technique as a striker. He throws like winging hooks that come from the ground. It looks really bad at times. But the one thing is that if he touches you, he has real power for sure. But besides bad technique, he has no volume. He's under the average strikes landed per minute at 170 pounds and 185 pounds. So it's just not there, man. But when he connects, it matters, though. He almost beat Danny Rodriguez, had him hurt badly early. And I like Daniel Rodriguez a lot. But obviously, Daniel Rodriguez being the fighter that he is, he rallies and then comes back to knock out Dwight Grant, right? On the ground, he sucks. He's got some ground and pound, and he's got decent takedown defense at 68%, but he sucks on the ground. Now, Dustin hasn't shown us all that much. Obviously, on this level, the dude is 0-3. How much could he have shown us? But that said, it was against, I think, Rodolfo Vieira, Kyle Dawkins, and Gerald Mearshart. So, they're all better than him. So I understand why he lost to those guys. He isn't a good striker. He doesn't have power for the division. He doesn't throw a ton of volume himself, but he does fight behind a decent jab, which keeps him out of trouble until he can shoot takedowns, right? Now, his top control game is super suffocating. And his BJJ black belt game is good. He transitions and reverses well. And if the fight does end up getting to the ground, he's going to be an issue for people. So Dwight Grant opened up a minus 175 favorite, which is just dumb considering the dude just got knocked out 85 days ago. But since then, the money has moved towards Dustin Stoltzfus, and rightfully so, in my opinion. I'm not even convinced that Grant can win a 3-round decision on the feet because he sucks. He's not technical. Maybe he's KO or bust, really. And, like, the KO is a puncher's chance KO, not from skill. So give me the dog. I think this kid gets the win here finally on the UFC level. I think his best chance to win is probably by decision. I threw a half unit on him at plus 125, another half unit on him to win by decision at plus 370 earlier in the week. But that's it for this fight. Oh, Keg's cousin Fredo in the chat. Fuck. What's up, Corey? Corey, did you get on Barry? Oh, yeah. If you guys hang out to the end, I'll let you know who I like in the Xfinity race. Yeah, mutts. All right. So this is what fight are we on? Dustin Jacoby, Da Eun Jung. Right. All right. So the odds, I fucked up. I'm just going to say it. I don't know what this line's doing, man. I took Dustin Jacoby like Monday afternoon, maybe Sunday night, somewhere around there. Didn't understand the line. I thought it was way off, like 50, 60 cents. Bet it immediately. Obviously, anybody that's followed me for 4.5 years knows the line moves with me 90% of the time and against me 10% of the time. This is one of those times in the 10%. And it sucks and it gets me angry every time. But it is what it is. I think that Dustin Jacoby's not bad, bro. I think that he's a meat and potato striker that doesn't do anything flashy at all, but everything that he does is technically sound. He knows that he can beat a lot of fighters in this division, like I mentioned today on the DFS side. A good jab, some accurate straights, and a nice counter check hook, and, a wicked, not a wicked chin. A wicked chin is a bad term for it. A good chin, a solid chin. And good cardio. That's going to beat a lot of people in this division. And Yankuda Laba is a beast. Super freak shit show Hulk beast. And what he did to Jacoby in the first round of that fight, man, was hard to watch. And the kid came back and won round 2 and 3 and got a draw. That's really impressive. Really, really impressive. On the ground, he's nothing special. That's probably the one knock on this kid. But, he's got better than average takedown defense. 60% is not bad. Even though he gets a really bad rap for being taken down a ton of times. But 60% takedown defense is not bad. And he makes his way back to his feet more times than not when he does get taken down. On the flip side, I think that Da Eun Jung blows. I don't like him, bro. I haven't liked him since the Sam Alvey fight. I don't like him. And a lot of people think this kid's a real prospect. 27, possibly fighting for a title one day. Fuck off. No shot he's fighting for a title one day. No shot. Now, on the feet, I think that he's okay. I think he has some power, but his technique is okay, not great, right? I think that because he's a big dude, he's effective in the clinch if he can get you there. He can get takedowns, obviously. On the ground, he has been solid. Some good top control wrestling when he can get you there. He's averaging right now 2.5 takedowns per 15 minutes with a 61% takedown accuracy. Well, guess what? Jacoby, stuffs takedowns at a 60% clip. So is that solid for Jung? Yes. But is it the end-all, be-all? No. Now, the odds, obviously, opened offshore at a pick'em, which was wrong, right? But the line movement in this fight, man, it's the only reason why I haven't doubled down. Because the line movement on this fight, so the fight opens up a pick'em, and then it goes to Jacoby minus 145, and has since flipped to where Jung is a minus 125 favorite. What? So because I thought the line was wrong, when I saw it, I grabbed it at minus 130 because I think he should be like a minus 170 favorite here, if I'm being honest. So why the money is going the other way, I don't know, because I just think that Jacoby's skill set is better than Jung's. I think he's better at what he does. So I think if he could stay on his feet early, which I think he should be able to, it's going to fuck the cardio up of Jung, because that's one thing, man. Jung's cardio, it has not been great. Okay? And aside from that, the level of competition that Jacoby has faced is on a stupid other level than Jung. Like, Jung lost to Sam Alvey. I don't care who got their hand raised. Go back and watch that fight. He lost to Smiling Sam in 2020. And he should be a favorite over Jacoby? Come on, bro. I can't buy it. I'm sorry, I can't. So I would say Jacoby plus 110 is definitely the play now, considering I have him at minus 130. So I haven't doubled down because the line movement is bizarre. I'm just going to stick with what I have right now and keep it moving. Let's see what this mutt is saying in the chat. Guest of the program. Guest of the program. Yeah, sorry, Sam. I love you, though. I think you're a great dude. Okay. Bill Algio versus Herbert Burns. Bill Algio 3-3 in his last 6, right? But that aside, Bill Algio is a good fighter, man. Very solid striker from range. Good footwork. He attacks the body a ton to really he tries to just beat the air out of people. And he mixes in combinations well. So his cardio, especially in this fight, is going to be an asset. I think his chin has been pretty good. And he throws a shit ton of volume. He lands 6 significant strikes per minute. That's good. The knock on the kid, obviously, the takedown defense. But even still, it's not awful at 55%. I do think that his ground game, I don't think it's particularly high level, but he does have 6 sub-wins in his career. But when he's getting the fight he wants to be striking from range. He wants to be bouncing and flopping out of the pocket. And most of all, setting a ridiculous pace. Herbert Burns, haven't seen him in 2 years. Why? I'm not sure. I think somebody said surgery, maybe, since he got knocked out by Daniel Pineda. I think that he'll be losing most exchanges on the feet because the striking just isn't on the level of Bill Algio. And his cardio, if it's anything like we saw 2 years ago, is a major liability, especially going up against somebody like Bill Algio. On the ground, though, Burns is world-class. He's just world-class. I'll leave it at that. Odds opened up, Algio minus 120. They shot up quickly. Now he's minus 210. I think Algio wins. He'll be at a huge grappling disadvantage for the first round, for certain. But I think as long as he's making Herbert Burns work, I think that it'll pay off late for him. Because I don't trust Burns' cardio. But I do think that if Burns is going to win a round, it's going to be in round 1. So do you lay off and hope Burns steals a round or gets a submission in the first round? And if not, then you hop on Algio where you don't have to lay 210 because he's down a round, but you know he's an overwhelming favorite the rest of the fight. If Burns' cardio is anything like it was 2 years ago, you know that. So maybe that's the move, because at that point, if he goes down a round, he'll probably be like plus 150, plus 175 maybe. So I think you either lay off early or you take Burns to submit him in round 1 maybe, or some bullshit like that. And if not, you get on Algio live going into round 2. Maybe that's the way. I don't know. I have to think about it more. Pinay Soriano, Dolce Lungin Bula. I don't like this fight at all. I'm probably not betting it. I think it's a tough one to call. Really tough. Lujimbula has not looked good lately. 1-3 his last 4. Lost to Magomed Ankalaev, lost to Brundage, lost to Barrial. But he should have probably beaten Cody Brundage because he had him hurt. But man, his fight IQ's not there yet. I don't know if it'll ever be there, but it's certainly not there yet. He did the only thing he could have done to fuck himself in that situation, and he fucked himself. And Cody Brundage jumped that Gilly, and it was all over but the crying. So, you know, he still has to work on his fight IQ. He's a striker, not great technique. And he does have power for sure, but he doesn't always throw flowing combinations, and his hand speed is slow for the division, definitely. The issue is he really doesn't attack the body all that often. Sometimes he'll mix leg kicks in, but he's primarily head hunting, and if he's missing your head, he's just looking bad. He's only been knocked out 1 time, but let's be honest. We've seen that dude on rubber legs like a half dozen times probably. His cardio is not great. It's average at best, and that's maybe being kind. So I don't know what he'll have in the second half of the fight. On the ground, non-existent. If he can get you to the ground, he's not doing much aside from ground and pound. Soriano also comes in with back-to-back losses. Lost to Maximov, lost to Allen. But I was talking to DC about Wartburg College today on the show. Leave it to DC to have a Wartburg College story. How? I don't know, but he did. But yeah, Soriano was a D3 All-American wrestler at Wartburg College in 2014. But he does not use it all that well, man. He's only attempted 6 takedowns in his first 4 fights. That's not that much. Now, he did get 4 of them, so when he wants to get you down, chances are he's getting you down. But, you know, is that going to happen here? That's hard to tell. I don't really know because it hasn't happened all that often yet. On the feet, Soriano is dangerous, carries power. His technique is definitely better, I think, than Lujimbula's. And he throws more volume than Dolce, which could be a big factor in this fight. So he definitely has the cardio edge. He'll be there the whole 15, definitely. I do think that the kid's still a work in progress because he's only 10 fights in, but there looks like a foundation of a good fighter here for sure. The odds opened offshore Soriano minus 275. Since then, Lungiambula has taken about 50 cents of money. Soriano's minus 215. I'm going to pick Soriano to win the fight. Why? Because of his cardio and his volume. I don't feel great about it, and I certainly don't feel great about it at the current price, the money line, because both these guys could drop each other in a heartbeat if we're being fair, right? So there's a better chance than not this fight probably ends by knockout. But I am going to lean Soriano by decision. I don't know why, but I just feel it. But I'm not betting it, and I'm probably not betting the fight at all, unless a live opportunity arises. Because I don't really think that there's value in this fight anywhere, to be honest. I looked for a while. I couldn't find anything I liked. All right. Ricky Simón, Jack Shore. This is probably the one fight that I'm truly probably on the fence about. I came down on the Jack Shore side earlier today in the breakdown with DC. But if I'm being honest, it's really close. Jack Shore looked good. He looked real good his last time out. He got the win. But what was most impressive about the win is they were feeding him cupcakes, just total cupcakes. And then he finally takes a step up in competition against Timur Valiev, and he handled it well. It was a close fight, could have been a draw, could have went either way probably. But he looked good considering it was his first real step up in competition. Because that's the knock on this kid. His competition hasn't been good at all. But I like his striking. I think he's dangerous. I think he's got knockout power. I think he throws volume. I think he's got great footwork. Cardio is an asset. Fight IQ appears to be on point. Very strong takedown game. Very strong top control wrestling game. This is one of those fights where, like, these two guys are averaging about 11 takedowns per 15 minutes combined. Jack Shore averages over 4 takedowns per 15 minutes. And he's got a black belt submission game. Half of his wins of the 16 wins are by sub. So there's a ton to like about this kid. And at the age of 27, the future is bright for Jack Shore. Ricky Simón, he's been one of those guys the last few years that has been really endearing, kind of in the way that like Cowboy used to be, or Jim Miller used to be, or Diego Sanchez. Just a grinder, just a legit grinder that's easy to root for. Now, nobody thinks that he's an excellent striker, but he has really looked good lately, at least, and he's improved a ton since joining the UFC. Now, is he elite at striking? No, but he does throw a ton of volume. His footwork is solid in and out of the pocket. And more times than not, man, he's going to be the one pushing the pace and keeping you on your back foot, right? His cage control game is strong. He can get you against the cage, get his underhooks in, and wear you out until he gets a takedown. He loves to make you wear his weight, man. That's his MO. He also averages almost 7 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's got a 72% takedown defense, which is rock chalk solid. Now, he did get dropped by Uriah Faber, right? Planted him like a tulip. So people think he's chinny now. Okay. But that was 6 fights ago. And since then, he's 4-1 against a much higher level of competition than Jack Shore. Much, much better. So the odds open offshore around a pick'em. Jack Shore sits around minus 150 right now. Fuck, this fight is tough to call. I took Jack Shore earlier, but I think I'm going to flip my pick, which usually never, ever works out well. I just think that this fight should probably be a pick. So I think any plus money is probably the way to go, I guess. Man, it's a tough one. I can't wait to watch it, though. It sucks that this card, by the way, is at 11 a.m. That blows, because we're going to be done with the live show probably by 6, even though we're going to start it at like 11 a.m. But whatever. We're cashing that race tomorrow, and we're making money on this card. Lauren Murphy, Miesha Tate. Miesha Tate dropping a weight class at this stage in her career. Why? Not sure. I think that the girl has her place in history. We get it. Her contribution has been big, but I don't know why she's title chasing off a 4.5-year layoff. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. She looked okay against Marion Renault in her return, but Marion Renault is a fossil. But then she really got worked badly and lost a dominant decision to Caitlin Vieira last time out, right? So I don't know where she is at this point in her career. She's not as good as she used to be. That I know. Her striking technique isn't bad. It's okay. She never really had power. But where her bread has been buttered has always been the ground. That was her MO. Take you down, dominant top control wrestling, ground and pound you, or work for a sub. That's what she's known for. I don't know why she didn't try that in the first 2 fights all that much. I assume it was because Caitlin Vieira is really good. She's a really good grappler. That's probably why. So she takes on Lauren Murphy, best year of her career in 2020. Female fighter of the year at like 37. Meat and potatoes girl that wants to stand in the fire of the pocket and bang. And I love it. I love it. Her face looks like chopped meat by the end of the fight. But you just have to respect her. You understand what I'm saying? So on the ground, she isn't really a submission threat at all. Her top control wrestling is probably average. But if she's going to end a fight on the ground, it's ground and pound. It's not going to be by anything else. She came into the title fight with Shevchenko on a 5-fight win streak. None of us thought that she had a prayer, and she didn't, right? But she has looked impressive the last couple of years on the run that she was on before the Shevchenko title fight. So the odds open offshore, Miesha Tate minus 160. Since then, she's taken about 40 cents. She's now around minus 200. Tough fight to call. Because if Miesha Tate decides that she's going to go the grappling route, she's probably going to have some success and win the fight. But if she stands and bangs, I think she's going to lose because I think Lauren Murphy's a better striker. So obviously we're on the greasy split at 3.5 to 1. It's probably got the best chance of all 3 to be the split here. But if you want something else, I can only look towards the dog at this price. Plus 170 is a little disrespectful. So that would mean that what? The implied odds are 36%. She's got more than a 36% chance to win this fight. So aside from that, I'm done with that one. All right, where are we at? All right. Shane Burgos, Charles Jourdain. This is probably your fight of the night. If you have props like what will be the fight of the night, this is probably the one you want to bet. I don't have them. Yeah, Shane Burgos is a freak, man. He can take an ungodly amount of damage before his body gives up. It's crazy. Very high-level striker, doesn't really get tired ever, lands about 8 significant strikes per minute, which is stupid. He carries real power for the division, and he's always going to be right there in your face the full 15 minutes, setting the pace in the pocket, looking to beat your ass. That's Shane Burgos in a nutshell. Okay? On the ground, he's capable when he needs to be. He's got 5 sub wins. So, but when he's getting the game he wants to be striking, period, full stop, done. Okay? Aside from that, his cardio, his heart, and his durability is really, really tough to deal with in this division, man. There are not many people that could just take that like he does. So Charles Jourdain wants very much the same fight as Shane Burgos. He's another kid that wants to stand and just bang for 15 minutes. He is a very good striker in his own right. Big difference between him and Shane Burgos is he probably mixes in his kicks more than Burgos does. But on the ground, Jourdain, a lot like Burgos, he's capable. You know, he's got multiple sub wins. He's got like 4 submission wins in his career. But nothing stands out where you're like, holy shit, that guy's a problem on the ground. Not to me, anyway. The odds open offshore, Burgos minus 150. He's taking about 15 cents, I guess. So I think that if you're asking yourself who is the better fighter if they both have their A+ game on the same day, I think you have to say it's Shane Burgos. I really do. He's just better. I think he's a better striker, and God knows he could take more damage than Jourdain, right? I do think that the damage that Shane Burgos has been accumulating lately is going to eventually show its head, and he's going to pay the price. Probably sooner rather than later, okay? But you have to at least say the kid gives him an average of 9 months off to heal and get right before he goes back in there to take a beating. So, I don't know. Maybe he'll last longer than I think he will. But I'm starting to get worried when I'm backing him that, man, when is all this damage going to take place, right? But, like I said this on the earlier show, nobody has even looked like they've, other than 3 guys, which is Josh Emmett, Edson Barboza, and Billy Quarantillo. And he beat Billy Quarantillo, but Quarantillo still looked good. Those are the only 3 guys that Shane Burgos has fought that have even looked like they belong in the same cage with him. Obviously, Emmett and Barboza beat him because they're animals. But he was, you know, relatively competitive even in those fights. And we've seen Charles Jourdain at times look bad against Lando Fanata. We've seen him get knocked out by Julian Erosa, or at least dropped. I don't know if he actually got knocked out in the end, but he got dropped by Erosa, who has pillow hands. I like Julian Erosa a lot, but he's not known for his power. All those reasons are why I have to pick Shane Burgos. I think that if he's at his best, he's going to win. So it's hard to find an angle because he's split down the middle on method of victory. He could win every way. But the two angles that I'd be looking towards are either Burgos inside the distance at plus 170 or Burgos in round 3 or decision at plus 140. I think I like the round 3 or decision plus 140 better the more I think about it. But I don't really mind either of them. Aside from that, I'm done with this one. Matt Schnell, Suma Derji. Last fight for Maderji was January 2021. Hasn't been in the cage in 19 months. Will it be an issue? I'm not sure. But like Gavin pointed out to me, the kid's young. It could mean that he's improved in leaps and bounds since then, which is possible. But you know, it's very hard to bet on what ifs in MMA, right? So, from what we've seen though, Maderzi striking looks good. He's shown really nice footwork. He rolls in and out of danger well. That usually leads to his opponent not often connecting with him clean. So I think it's a big part of the reason why this kid hasn't been knocked out yet is that and the fact that it's really hard to pin him in a corner to really go at him and get to work. So, but I don't think he's incredibly technical on the feet. And that's because he doesn't plant his feet ever. Like when he's in the pocket, he just bounces around like a green bean. So, like, I think if he sat down on his punches more, he would be way more effective than he already is. But, you know, I think his striking's getting better every fight. His cardio and chin have looked good thus far, but aside from his footwork, his defensive striking doesn't look great because he walks into the pocket at times with his hands a lot lower than I would like them to be. So, on the ground, pretty non-existent, I think. He's really got to be on the feet to be effective. On the flip side, Matt Schnell, underrated in terms of his skill set. I think that his pocket boxing is better than people give him credit for. He's got fast hands. He's accurate. He can hurt people. But the big problem with the stand-up game is when you're in the fire, you can get burned. And Matty Schnell has a face made of glass. His chin is pretty bad. Pretty bad. It's been cracked more than a few times. And at this point, you can almost count on him getting dropped if you hit him a few times on the button in a round. Right? On the ground, though, he has a huge advantage in this fight, man. He's such an underrated grappler, and he can submit you from anywhere. Now, granted, he's not world class, but he's really, 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 really good. And, you know, if he does the right thing, that could mean a ton in this fight. So the odds open offshore, Maderji minus 230. Since then, he's taken about 30 cents of money. Sits right now about minus 260. I understand why it's hard to back Matt Schnell because of that chin. It is a major liability for him. And I get that for sure. But, you know, these guys have 10 losses. 9 of them have come by way of finish. And while I lean that Sumaderji probably wins the fight because of Matt Schnell's chin, if he doesn't knock him out and Matt Schnell is smart, the value in this fight is on Matt Schnell by submission at plus 850. 100%. Because Sumaderji has 4 losses. All 4 have come by way of submission. And if Matt Schnell wants to get this kid to the ground, he's going to be able to get him to the ground. The question is, will he pull the trigger on the takedowns? I have to think his coaches have seen where Maderji has a liability, and that's what they're going to focus on. I have to think that. So the value for me is on Schnell by sub at plus 850. I think if you want to back yourself up, you could take Maderji hedge by KO at plus 115. Not sure if I'll do that. Haven't decided. But I will be on Matt Schnell by sub at plus 850, no doubt. Aside from that, nothing here. Muslim Salikov, Ling Jing Liang. Yep, both these guys, really, really good strikers. Leach comes in off the fight against Chimaev, obviously, where he got destroyed in like 2 minutes. Can't hold that against him, though, obviously. He's 2-2 in his last 4 fights, but his last 2 losses are against Chimaev and Neil Magny. So, like, how are you going to fault him for that? You know what I mean? But the Leach, his striking technique is flawless. He's got power, hand speed. He's accurate. The footwork is there. And he has been dropped a few times in fights, but there's something to be said for the fact that he's never lost by knockout. So his volume is great. He sets a pace. He'll be in your face the whole 15. On the ground, he's got very good top control wrestling. But we haven't seen the submission skills in a really long time, like 7 or 8 years. Since he's gotten a sub. Muslim Salikov, similar in the way that he's also a very good striker that is technically sound, but very different in the way that when he's getting the fight he wants, he's a low-volume snooze fest. So there's no way he will be able to compete with the pace or volume that the Leach sets in this fight. But when he connects, it hurts, definitely. Odds opened up offshore. Salikov minus 140. Since then, the line's gone up and down, but settled around minus 155. I can only look towards the dog here. Like I said earlier, man, even if you really give Salikov his due, this fight should be a pick'em. So I think that you have to take the plus 145 or 150, depending on where you shop on Jing Liang, really. And I also think you have to throw a little bit of money on him by decision at plus 460. Because while I do think that he has the power to melt Salikov's face off, Salikov is also a tough dude that might be able to go the full 15. And I lean that there's a better chance than not that it goes the full 15, in my opinion. Aside from that, I'm done with that one. Michelle Waterson, Amanda Lemos. Yeah, Michelle Waterson looks good, man. She's shredded. Looks really, really good. She looks like a bodybuilder now. Waterson is a well-rounded MMA fighter. Stand-up game is sound. Her ground game and grappling game is very good. She's got cardio for days, and her chin has held up relatively well throughout her career. So all in all, I mean, she's really solid. Even in her loss to Marina Rodriguez, where she got hit with some really big shots, she held up well enough to get to the cards, which says something. So I know she's getting older, but even at this stage of her career, she's still a very good fighter. Amanda Lemos is a freak show. Freak show. She's built for tough, like legit. Because when you listen to that chick punch somebody, it doesn't sound like any other female punches somebody. Maybe with the exception of Nunes. But that's with Nunes being 20 pounds heavier than her. she's gifted. You can't teach power. She's gifted. And her technique is flawless. And she's calm all the time. Even when she smells blood, she's composed. So as far as the ground game, nothing special. She does have a couple chokes under her belt, but I think one of them was basically a club and sub, the other a gilly. Her cardio, though, and moving forward, which is what I'll be interested to watch when she gets to the main event stage, is we've seen her slow down before in her career. How will she deal with 5-round fights consistently? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? So the odds opened offshore, Lemos minus 400. Since then, Waterson's taken about 90 cents of money. You guys know we're on the split. I don't like it, but I have to bet it because you can't just bet some of them. That aside, though, I would be way more apt to bet on Michelle Waterson if this were a 5-round fight, because I think she would be a lot more live in the championship rounds if the fight got there. But in a 3-round fight, I mean, I can only look towards Amanda Lemos. You're not going to obviously take her minus 400. So if you're not taking the split prop and you want action, I would lean Amanda Lemos KO. But aside from that, we're done. Last fight, 51 minutes into the program. All right. Brian Ortega, Yair Rodriguez. So, yeah, this fight reminds me of the Pereira-Strickland fight in a couple ways. Most importantly, because there is a clear path to victory for Brian Ortega, right? Now, he is a very solid striker, and he does have some power. He flows well in and out of the pocket, and his striking skills have improved a ton since his UFC debut back in 2014. On top of that, he could take a ton of damage. His cardio is rock solid. And his fight IQ is top notch, man. Striking defense is at times an issue for him. Comes into the pocket with his hands low more often than I would like him to. But his chin is ridiculous. And he doesn't pay for it all that often. At some point, though, you have to assume that the damage is going to accumulate to the point where it's a problem for him, just like Shane Burgos, right? On the ground, though, we know Brian Ortega is elite. He could be the best in the world right now at BJJ inside a cage consistently. He's worked on his top control wrestling game, which we know is a real asset. And we know that he has insane submission skills. Yair Rodriguez, been touted for years as one of the best prospects in the UFC. But my problem with him is now here we sit, a few months from his 30th birthday, entering his prime, yet still has the same exact liabilities that he had a decade ago when we first saw him. That's my biggest bone to pick with him. Is he a solid striker? Yes, very good striker, especially from range. Very flashy and wild, but there is some real technique there. So you have to be on your guard and ready for anything, because he can meme KO you at any time with how unorthodox that he is, right? His chin and his cardio holds up very well. But a big difference between him and Brian Ortega, I think, is fight IQ. I think his isn't great and Ortega's is. But the biggest problem is the kid's a dead duck off his back on the ground. He is. And you can take him down whenever you want to. Now, he's only been taken down an average of 1.5 times per 15 minutes. But lately, it's been 3 times per 15 minutes, the last few fights. So I think it's a real problem for him anytime he fights somebody that's coming in with a really heavy grappling program. And I think that, judging by the way that we've heard Brian Ortega talk about how he's going back to his roots, my gut says that he comes in with a grapple heavy game plan, and he gets takedowns early and often until he wins a dominant decision by just top control and submission attempts, or until he submits Rodriguez and wins the fight. So I can't look against Ortega here. I really can't. Not with the huge advantage I know he has on the ground. Even if I think Yair Rodriguez is probably the better striker from range, I don't see either of these guys getting knocked out. So I think that it leads to a submission here. I don't mind anybody taking a shot on Ortega by sub at plus 280, or you can go the safer route like me, and you can take Brian Ortega by submission or decision at minus 110. That's how you break down an MMA card for an hour. And I'm not done giving winners, because we have an Xfinity race tomorrow afternoon, boys. Before I give those winners out, I'd like you to hit the like button. I'd like you to hit the subscribe button. It's the least you could do. All right. So, Xfinity race tomorrow. Watched all of practicing and qualifying today, which I finally had time to do for an Xfinity race for the first time in like a month. There were two guys that I liked to win the race that I bet. And that was towards the end of practice and before qualifying. I took Josh Berry at 7-1, and I took Trevor Bayne at 10-1. Now, my NASCAR partner in crime, Coop, also likes Trevor Bayne at 10-1, but he took Joe Gibbs at, I think, like 4.5-1, I think is what he got. I don't like Ty Gibbs that much, personally, because he had nothing on the long run in practice. He put down a wicked fast lap, but like if you look at what he was the fastest by 0.3, 5 laps into his run, and by the 20 lap average, he was a second off the pace. So I have my concerns about Ty Gibbs, but you never know. Coop's a beast. Ty Gibbs could win this race by 6 seconds, and would it shock me? Not in the least. But I went with Josh Berry, who destroyed the field in qualifying, got the pole. He would have won by 0.3 had he not tapped the wall at the end. But he wasn't near the fastest in practice. But I think between those three guys that me and Coop have, I would think one of them probably has a really good chance to win the race. So that's where we are there. And then obviously tomorrow I'll be live for KegCast subscribers at 11 a.m. for the start of the UFC with Diego and Gav. And then the Xfinity race will start when the main card starts. Sunday will be live in the morning at 11 a.m. Me and Coop breaking down the Cup Series race at Loudon. And then Sunday at 1 o'clock on the DFS side, breaking down the NASCAR Cup Series race from a DFS and betting perspective at Loudon. And then Sunday at 3 o'clock, live again for the live betting show for the race. So should be a fun weekend, should be a busy weekend. We'll be done early both days, which is cool. And aside from that, whether you whether you fade me or you tail me, I hope your action runs pure this weekend. And I hope you crush responsibly. I'm out. Later.